I think there was an aspect of in the multicultural communities that
Mm,
grew me the most,
mm,
and were the most healing for me. It was healing because of the curiosity. Everyone took curiosity to understand my experience and
cool.
to learn and grow. And we didn't like come with assumptions or expectations. And I feel like that also is like a very heavy component to the ethnic churches that is something we need to address. Yeah, we come with these stereotypes and these expectations. We know what an auntie's gonna say, what the typical phrases, all of that. Um, but how often are we approaching conversations with curiosity
Yeah.
and without any expectations?
Welcome, everyone, to a Diaspora Network podcast series called Rooted and Rising. My name is Samuel Teka. We've been going through 6 values, 6 topics, and hopefully I can remember them. It is healing, it is identity, it is reclaiming, community, bicultural bridge building, and justice and a service lifestyle. And today we'll be talking about community. And the way the Diaspora Network defines that is creating a sense of belonging with the Diaspora Next Gen. We have an incredible guest. I had the chance to speak to her over the phone. And can I just say that she has a heart of gold? She loves people. And I really believe she is the perfect person to speak to about this topic. She is also the founder of the Brown Table, where you can find her on Instagram on that. And she's created a space where people could have honest conversations, create community, and she's also empowering other people too. And so we're really, really excited to have this conversation. So without further ado, Priya, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. And thank you
Yeah,
for the warm introduction. Like, that's so sweet. And I'm so honored to be asked to be part of this,
of
and to have this
course.
conversation as well. So
Yeah, of course. I practiced that introduction for like a good 20 minutes just so I could get it
you
right.
like articulated it perfectly. I was just like, whoa, okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that. No, I thank you for giving your time to be on the podcast. You were highly recommended by Fatima and Jonathan, and they were like, "You got to have her on the podcast." And I was like, "Okay, let's make it happen." Um, I want to start off this podcast with asking you this question, and I wrote it down here. I'm just going to read it from here, which is, what does community mean in the context of the Diaspora Next Gen experience, and why is it so vital? Give your thoughts on that. Maybe even if you want, you could connect your background and your story to that question, and then we could just have a free flow conversation from there.
For sure. I think first, like, it's important to like distinguish like the diaspora too, where it's like
Mm,
we're talking about ethnic churches for the people that aren't aware of what the diaspora network is talking about.
hmm
It's just the different ethnicities that don't originally come from the States. And so for me, the diaspora I'm part of is the South Asian diaspora, which encompasses a huge span of space, whether it be India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, like
mm,
Middle East, that's all South Asia. And so it's a lot of different cultural associations and perspectives that come into play in my mind, as I have this conversation.
mm,
Um, Community as a next gen is really hard.
mm,
As a diaspora next gen is really hard because we have what America says is community and what the church says is community,
mm.
and then what our culture says is community.
Yeah, that's
Um,
good.
and I think there is never really good balance that we are able to do, and we're just juggling all three.
Mm,
Um, and so for me, how I've defined community is a covenant, and
mm,
it's a covenant to a body that is outside of your own. It's not convenient. It's a space where you're seen, known, and loved, and
Mm,
you're not just gathered um, or forced to be together. Um, and I think it's so vital because God didn't design us to be alone. Like,
that's right.
I think so many people, like, and I think society, like, we're in a very, like, isolated world. And a lot of people think it's okay to be isolated and it's okay to not have community. Um,
Mm,
and there's seasons for sure that I think it's needed, but it shouldn't be like a lasting thing. And I think, like, as a whole, we experience life better when we are in community.
yeah.
You agree with that, Tim?
Yeah, I fully agree with that. You know what really resonated with me? The fact that you defined community as covenant. That's interesting. I don't hear that often. Where did that come from? How did you get to that revelation or that insight of covenant? Give me context behind that.
Um, I think about how, like, there is biblically, like, there's the covenant between, like, God and the church and Christ as
Mm,
his bride, and then the covenant between man and wife.
mm,
Um, and both of those are rooted in love. So kind of where I come from when I say that is I do think, like, there is a need for a form of covenantal relationship
mm,
between
mm.
community. Now, should it be the extent of Christ and the church in a man and wife? No.
No.
Um, but covenantal in the sense of you're intentionally making a choice, and it's not based on feeling or circumstance or any of that, where you are committed. And I think that's something that we don't find in friendships, relationships, any of that nowadays.
Yeah, that's really good. I was reading John 17, which usually has the header of the high priestly prayer or Jesus's prayer. And this is like moments before he's about to be crucified and ultimately resurrect. But he prays for his disciples and he says that he prays that they may be one as him and the Father are one, so that the world may know that he was sent. And I hear a lot of that in your definition of covenant. I mean, in order to be united, in order to love one another, there does require a level of commitment and intentionality to one another in
I
covenant.
Yeah, and I think unity too.
Mm,
And speaking from, like, the South Asian diaspora lens, something that I've been really convicted of
mm,
is, like, the South Asian diaspora. There's statistics and all of that. I'm not a statistic person, but uh, it's like one of the most widespread diasporas, and it also, like, has a high significance of, like, non-Christians. And so if we're
wow.
talking about
Mm,
reaching the South Asian diaspora and
mm,
evangelizing and spreading the gospel, we need to understand that God has community as his body, ingrained in, like, he has the value of unity ingrained in community in his body. Um,
mm,
and one thing I've been really convicted about is, like, the South Asian experience doesn't know what unity is. Um, it like there's so many ways of division, like where my family's from in India, like
mm,
there's denominations if you are
mm,
Christian.
mm,
But then it's like castes, there's different sects, there's like different
mm,
things that are so divisive
mm.
in the South Asian cultures that true unity, like, how do you explain to someone who's never experienced unity what unity
Wow.
is?
Mm,
Um, and as a church body who does know God's love, we need to understand what unity is in order to like bring them in to a safe
Mm,
space. Um, and that's kind of like where my heart posture is like, I just want unity and I want to create a safe space for um, a, the diaspora in order for us to reach out to the unreached too.
yeah, yeah, that's really good. I kind of want you to share your story. I feel like what you're saying right now comes with so much background, and it probably comes with so much challenges that maybe you personally have faced, or maybe that you've seen in other people or other community, other groups. Can you share? Because it's not even just for other people. I feel like I want to know your story personally. um, yeah, and kind of, how did you get to this point of saying, no, we need unity, we need to really develop community and covenant and all that.
I think it's been like honestly a lot of prayer, and a lot of it has been stuff that I'm still figuring out and
Mm,
still like talking to the Lord about. And also very recent stuff too. But
mm,
in the like broad scope of things, my family is South Asian Christian. My family comes from a state in India called Kerala.
mm.
And like our group of people are called Malayali. Um,
Malayali, okay.
yeah. And so
Is
we
there
have a
is
lot of,
sorry, is there a meaning behind that word,
I don't think so. I think
or
it's just
just
kind of
no?
like,
Okay,
I think it's just like who the people group is in
okay,
Kerala.
okay, okay.
Great question. I actually don't know. I'm curious now. But within like even just like the Malayali like community, um, there's a huge Christian population, but then there's also a lot of non-Christian
Mm,
Malayalis that exist. Um, and within the Christian population, there's so many denominations.
mm,
And so I grew up denominationally Christian. I went to a um, South Asian denomination in a church that was part, like a very liturgical church. Um, and I loved it. I thought I was experiencing community, and I was really involved and invested in doing all of the things. Um, but when push came to shove and life got hard, I realized I didn't have people to support me,
mm,
um, and to rely on. And then I was realizing that like God wants that. Like God doesn't want us to be going through things alone. Um, and so I started really like wrestling with God at an early age about like what does community mean? And then also like if I feel this way and I feel so alone going to church, even though I see these people every week, um,
mm,
like what does that mean in terms of like you? And
mm,
like I over time built I had like developed resentment and like
mm,
frustration, and it led to anxiety and panic attacks,
mm.
um and me acting out. And so eventually, my uncle and my aunt started seeing um, these things in me, um, and me going down an unhealthy path. And so they called it out and they brought me under their wing and they started taking me to a church with them. And this was a multi ethnic church, versus I had grown up in just a Malayali church.
Yeah.
Um, and the multi-ethnic church was a like very big change for me.
Mm,
Um, but it also like helped me separate faith and like Christianity and culture.
mm, mm,
Um, we so often I think like, and at least like this is I think our experience as South Asian Christians is like it's so easy to infuse culture and faith, especially if we go to a cultural church.
facts.
Um, and one can easily outweigh the other.
Absolutely.
Um, and so, from my experience, like stepping away and going to a multi-ethnic church, I had to separate the two. And by separating the
Mm,
two, I got to learn like this even balance.
mm,
So then now when I am back ingrained in the South Asian community, um, I know what that even balance is, and I'm
wow.
doing it in a healthy way.
Wow.
But yeah, like honestly, like my uncle and aunt taking me under their wing changed my life. I always say that like they saved my life truly. And I met the Lord at that church. I was baptized in the church, and then I was also called into ministry in
Mm,
that church. And so my life like changed, and I honestly like developed a sense of my church was my safe place, and it was a place I was excited to go. And I was
mm,
excited to go not just for the social component like I was at the Malayali church, but I was excited to go because I felt seen and loved, and
wow.
I felt the presence of God in so many ways.
Mm,
Uh, and so I had kind of like developed like a comfort in the multi-ethnic church and the multi-ethnic spaces. And so as I like transitioned and grew up, went to college and all of that, I kind of like expected to stay in multi-ethnic ministry. During college though, I got involved in South Asian InterVarsity, and
mm,
it was a thing that I avoided for a really long time. But once I joined and became involved in it, it changed my life. And it made me so passionate about college ministry as a whole, but also like the South Asian experience. And then as life happened, I continued to like do multi-ethnic ministry. I worked at churches, and then eventually ended up doing missions across the world. I was in at Tanzania, in Kenya, which is in East Africa,
wow.
um, and that seeing the level of community and what community was outside of the American perspective, I think ultimately was the game changer for me, and
Wow.
what made community such a like vital thing that I believe in. I'm trying to like figure out some things up. Uh, Long story short, I end up moving to Chicago. I'm in grad school, and I told the Lord, I was like, I will go to a church regularly. Like,
Mm,
I will like volunteer and be active, but I can't have a second job while um, being in grad school.
yeah.
And
Mm,
slowly, I realized how much of who I was ministry and loving people. And as I
mm,
just isolated to school, I didn't feel like myself.
mm,
So I started volunteering again to some capacity. Um, and then, yeah, God placed the round table on my heart, probably at the worst time it could have ever been. It was like the worst season of school. I tried to avoid it for a really long time, and give God all the excuses.
mm,
And ultimately, like, He disciplined me and reminded me that, like, I needed to be obedient to it. And so, yeah, I just kind of created the round table in faith, not knowing fully what it was, but approaching it with curiosity and um, just like wanting to know how to best serve the community, serve the Lord, and like bring healing and restoration
yeah. Wow.
to the church. And it's
Yeah.
been such a cool opportunity. I still have no idea what God's going to do. Um, and yeah, it's just been the best opportunity. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that helps a lot. It helps me a lot. I think it helps the people that are listening to that you didn't just arrive here. There is a background, there is a context to everybody. And often, you know what I noticed about the Lord is, and I don't know if this is the way he just does things, or maybe he just did it in my personal life. but I see a common thread with everybody that I talk to. Often the Lord will pull you out of a place or a space, and then you, for maybe a couple months, couple years, the Lord begins to form you and shape you. And then he'll send you back.
Yeah,
He'll send you back to that place. Do you resonate with that?
for sure. And I think
Yeah.
it's a really funny thing because I don't think I ever would have expected it. Uh,
Mm,
I really had to wrestle with God on what it was. And one of the biggest things, like for me, one of like my quotes and values is like, God can do the most in you and through you when you step outside of your comfort zone.
so true.
Um, and I had to face the reality that like I had become comfortable in ministry that was like multi ethnic. Um, and
Wow.
God putting me back into the South Asian like diaspora wasn't a bad thing, or it wasn't like a negative thing to any extent. It was because like I had found healing and I was able to come in with
Wow.
a perspective that knew all sides,
Wow.
um, and just wanted to love people. And so I think approaching it from that mindset has been really helpful. But there is definitely days where I'm like, what is this? I did not expect that whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk about that a little bit more. What are some of the challenges that you are facing right now dealing with the next gen diaspora? What are some of the issues that you see pop up often?
Mhm. Yeah, I think, like I said, like the balance of culture
Mm,
and like faith is
mm,
a really, really big thing.
wow.
Um, that, yeah, it's like, it's one or the, it's like, yeah, for a lot of South Asians, I don't think, or South Asian Christians specifically, there isn't like a separation of the two. It's like they're ingrained together. And that means if culture hurts you, then the church hurts you. And if the church hurts you, then culture hurts you. And so one of the challenges that I see is like addressing the pain and the hurt. And I think this
Mm,
has happens like within the multi-ethnic spaces as well. And I experienced it in my
absolutely.
multi-ethnic community as well. But there is like a level of like animosity that I see within the cultural space, um, that I think is like something that we have to navigate and talk about more. And every situation is so different as well. But that's like a common thread I see. I think like lack of vulnerability and fear
Mm,
is a really common thread.
wow.
Even just within the diasporas as a whole, like ethnic cultures have a lot of similarities. We have a lot of like incredible differences that make
Absolutely.
us so unique, but we do have a lot of similarities, and I
Oh
don't
yeah.
think we acknowledge that enough. Um, and so I think like, yeah, fear of vulnerability, not feeling like you can say things, honestly, is another like really, really common thing.
Why do you think that is, Priya?
Pride shame culture for South Asians, specifically. That's what I've kind of deduced it to. In short, is like we've this is a like generational like societal thing of like pride
Mm,
and shame.
mm,
Um, it's like it's centuries in the making. It's not
mm,
something that we're gonna break up overnight.
mm.
But I do think a lot of vulnerability and a lot of the issues are rooted in pride and shame within the South Asian churches as a whole,
Yeah.
the South Asian immigrant churches. What do you
Yeah.
think it is in terms of your community and what you've seen?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I would definitely say, I would agree with you and say for sure pride and shame. And it's something that's been passed down from one generation to the other. Um, Obviously, there is a, a sort of belief behind being vulnerable or being week, or in week, there's many ways to define or interpret that, but just kind of being open and honest about where you're at could be perceived as weak. And I think that's a belief system, again, that we see not that we just see that in a lot of ethnic groups, but I think just widely, generally, this is something that's pretty common. um so pride and shame, for sure. I would say fear of rejection or judgment is probably another one. I know uh in the Ethiopian side, on the Ethiopian side, this is something that I commonly hear with next gen diaspora, is if they were to be vulnerable, honest, it could be faced with a lot of judgment or rejection. So, I mean, if that's the result, why go into it to begin with, type of
Yeah, for sure.
mindset. So, yeah, and there's probably a plethora of other reasons, but for sure, pride and shame, I would say, is pretty up there. It's pretty top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like there's such a component of like where is your heart posture behind it too,
Mm, mm,
where when people are experiencing that rejection,
mm,
um I think like one thing that I see a lot is like the need to like take away the hurt, and like let's
mm.
be able to recognize the specks in all of us and the things that we all need to work on. um and are you coming from a place of hurt, or are you coming from a place of healing?
That's right.
um and is that why you're advocating? Is that why you are speaking out? Because I think, yeah, like historically, culturally, like rejection happens a lot when there is like pride and shame, and
Absolutely.
advocacy for things that don't really matter in a church per se.
Mm,
uh, and so, yeah, just like I think it does come down to where is your heart and where are you coming from?
yeah, that's good. So, what are ways that we could build bridges between the first and the second gen? Um, in your personal experience, what have you seen that works? And what are some solutions that we could bring to that?
Yeah. um I think it doesn't start wide scale, with
Mm,
a mega church. I think it starts locally and small. um and not to bring up the pun of the table, but it happens around a table.
that's good. Yeah.
I think there is a need to sit down with first gen and second gen, whether it be leaders, grandparents, all of the above. We need to be sitting around tables and hearing each other's stories, the good and bad, seeing each other. Um, and then also, like, from those conversations, developing mutual respect, honor that's rooted in like love.
Mm,
Um, and like you just learn so much, about other people, but also like things that you can apply to your life. Um, I think that's where it needs to start and where it needs to happen. Um, I think the first gen, from the people I've talked to, they don't know how to start those conversations.
mm,
And they don't know if the conversations are going to be well received.
mm.
Versus, I think the second gen, like maybe we get too busy. Maybe we just kind of expect like they don't care, they're against us, they're traditional, they're set in their ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where a big issue lies. But in coming around a table, like that is the first step
Hmm,
towards unity,
hmm.
and making an actual change in our diaspora and in our churches as cultural churches.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I think sometimes we want to start with the macro, and often it's in the little things that God does his deepest work in transforming people and developing a bond or unity. And I think we need to bring back the table, I think, in whatever context that may look like for other people. Which, again, I love what you're doing, because I think what you're encouraging people to do is not start out there first, but start in here. And it's like, hey, around the table where there is fellowship, there is food, there is conversations. I think those are the moments that bring change and transformation. I think often as a pastor and one who's preached from the pulpit, I've noticed that it's awesome and it's a very high calling and I revere it. However, I've concluded that sermons, though they do have power and can transform people, I think what I've noticed is that sermons are more of a catalyst. They're meant to just kind of propel you. And if you were to ask me, where do they propel you to, I would say they're meant to propel you to the table, to have these raw and honest conversations with the community that you are with. And I think that's where the true power of transformation comes from. Yeah.
And I think like looking back into like the different communities that like I've been a part of, I think there was an aspect of in the multicultural communities that
Mm,
grew me the most,
mm,
and were the most like, healing for me. It was healing because of the curiosity.
mm.
Everyone took curiosity to understand my experience and
Cool.
to learn and grow. And we didn't like come with assumptions or expectations. And I feel like that also is like a very heavy component to the ethnic churches that is something we need to address. Where like, yeah, we come with these stereotypes and these expectations. We know what an auntie's gonna say, what the typical phrases, all of that. Um, but how often are we approaching conversations with curiosity
Yeah.
and without any expectations other than
Wow.
like basic decency?
That's really good.
Um, which is hard, and it's hard within the immigrant cultures too. Um, because we're talking about like generations,
Yes.
that we are having to confront like patterns for generations.
Yeah.
But I do
Yeah.
think, sorry, go ahead.
Go for it. No, no, please, please,
Oh,
please.
I was gonna say like I think we also have like a leverage as cultural like communities, where hospitality, like thinking to literally every ethnicity,
Yeah.
like hospitality and community is ingrained in
Very
our
much.
original societies, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Um, and so it's like if we understand, like innately, we all understand what community means. It's more
Mm,
like, are we good at doing it well?
that's
Um,
so good.
yeah,
Yeah. That's very good. It's not a matter of doing it, it's a matter of doing it well. And that's a very good distinction. And I think, I mean, what better place to start than with Jesus, who really just helps us to apply that of doing community well. Yeah, it's
yeah.
very good.
And I think doing it well looks like just doing it with love and curiosity,
Yeah,
honestly.
that's right. Yeah,
And
I,
that's
I,
reflected in who Jesus was.
absolutely. I, often when Jesus would have conversations or maybe even conflicts sometimes with the Pharisees or the religious leaders, his it's so fascinating. He would often ask a question to the question. And I think we got to take that example of getting down to the root of things by asking questions. And the only way you ask questions is by being curious.
Yeah. And I'll admit, like, I think I'm learning that sometimes I take it too far.
Absolutely. Likewise. Yeah.
I ask too many questions, and yeah, that's something that I'm working on. But it's a big part of who I am and like
Mm,
how I approach like community, where you're able to understand the world in such a freer way,
absolutely.
when you're not seeing it through a lens of expectation.
Absolutely. So, last question for you, and then we'll conclude because I know you have to go. So, for a young person who feels disconnected or invisible in their church or cultural context, what would you say to encourage them to step into community again?
That's a good question. And I think the first thing I would say is like, you're not alone. And like, it's not a you thing. It's like something that so many of us
Yeah.
experience. It's something I've
Yeah.
experienced. Um, and so you're not alone. And
Yeah.
it's not what God has designed. It's not what God wants for you.
Mm,
Um, so just to kind of set that stage. And then I would also like really want to emphasize like the enemy works in isolation. And I've seen this time and time again where like when you are isolated, that's when the enemy is going to speak the loudest, give you the most lies, tempt you the most. We
so
like we
true.
can't have that happen. Like you need community to call you out, and to do it in a loving way. And I know that saved me a ton of hurt and heartache. And so I would say like, is it easy? Is it necessarily always fun to push yourself
Mm,
and find community? No, but in
mm,
the long run, it's going to save you.
yeah.
Um, Advocate for yourself, ask for help, push yourself when it's uncomfortable, step outside of your comfort zone. But then also know that like you do need to seek it and be very intentional about it. Um,
Mm,
Intentionality is something that we lack as a
mm,
society.
mm,
And we want things to happen out of convenience.
mm,
We'll grab dinner with someone if it's convenient. We'll, um, yeah, help someone if it's convenient. And it's few and far between that people like go out of their way. Um,
mm,
and I just, I don't stand behind that.
yeah.
Um, and so that I think is like, be intentional, um, put that effort out. And then another thing that I'm learning is you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And people will show you what they show you, and you can love them from a distance, but also know that not everyone needs to have a seat at your table. Like they might be supposed to be at someone else's table. Um, and forcing them to be at your table is only going to be lead to
Oh,
resentment.
that's so good. Yeah. I would love to go deeper into that, but maybe a part two.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really good. Thank you, Priya. No,
Thank
that's
you.
amazing. Thank you for your insight, your wisdom, your experience, which is a lot of where this insight and wisdom is coming from. Um, can I just say you also have a very calm demeanor, and you speak so gently, and I feel like so at peace right now as you're talking. Yeah, I really do. I really do.
No, I'm a huge advocate for mental health, so that means a lot to me.
Okay. Yes.
But then I think people who knew me in my previous lives
Yeah.
are gonna laugh hearing that because that has not
Wow.
always been so.
Look at
Look at what God
Jesus.
does, guys.
Look at what God does. Exactly. No, that's going to be a gift. And it is a gift because I think we need more gentle, calm conversations. And I think you display that really well. So, anyways, thank you, Priya. I appreciate your time. I know you have to go, but again, thank you. I think there's going to be a lot of people that benefit from this. And yeah, Appreciate you.
We'll connect again soon. Great talking to you.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, for
Talk to you
sure.
soon. Bye.
Okay, bye.